So I think it is that time to do a little vlog because I've got nothing else to do. That's usually when the vlog cam comes out. And yes, I have psycho eyes. It's 5 a.m. and a husky voice. I have a story about that. And I'm wired on some coffee right now. So this is the vlog on my very brief visit to Peru and briefer visit to Chile. Not a fan of Chile. I think I've already expressed that. So, flew from Barcelona to Santiago. I'd never really planned to go to Chile, actually. I mean, to see Chile. I already knew its customs didn't really appeal to me so much. It's not really Latin America. I don't see Chile as, on the same page as, let's say, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, all of which are different but still Latin. I hated it. I had so many stories I could tell you. Like, it's really easy to judge a country effectively, objectively now. When you travel to quite a few places, you gauge quite well if it's going to be a positive or negative. I still go to places I have a stereotype about just to see if it changes anything. It's always good to do that. Like Pakistan, for example, second favourite country of all time. I had such a good time in Pakistan. I could go back there like 20 times. It's fantastic. Yet there's that stereotype in Europe about Pakistanis, which isn't inaccurate, because Pakistanis you may see often outside of Pakistan aren't representative of a lot of the people that you see within the country. I digress. So, arrived in Santiago, went straight to the ATM, and the ATM to withdraw money in Chile, it's fucking insane. Like, it's Santander Bank was $10 withdrawal fee, and I use a lot of fintech apps anyway, so there's usually a discount on the cards I use, and it's still that crazy. The cheapest I found in the end was $7 in San Pedro. I think that's the most expensive ATM I've had to use in probably like 10 years or something like that. So that was a really negative thing. Then I went to San Pedro itself, because what I did was I got such a bad vibe about Santiago. It was freezing cold. I figured, you know what, I'm going to leave Chile as soon as possible, but it might be nice to actually like visit somewhere. So I thought I'll stop by San Pedro. So I flew to Calama, basically just a direct exchange. And then, Calama stayed in an airport lounge. Always do the airport lounges now, by the way. Total value for money. It's brilliant, like 20 quid, and you could just sit in there and eat and drink and do whatever. So I went to San Pedro, and San Pedro and it's winter now as well, and I'll be honest, I didn't do any research because that's not how I roll. So I just generally just dot to a place, and because I don't really care if it's winter or summer, at least I thought that was the case. Now I'm getting old, I'm like, nah, I don't want that winter in my life. So San Pedro, just a tourist, absolute, just the scummiest, fakest tourist place I've ever been in my life. Like, really had such a shit time there, like really shit. But I can't express how artificial San Pedro in Chile is. I'll give you an example that is just shocking. So essentially you have like a national park, and then the national park is sliced and diced, a bit like what you have with the reservations in the US. So tribal chieftains have laid claim to areas that are essentially profitable to, extract capital from tourists. It's got something there that tourists might want to see. The prices are fucking unbelievable. You won't believe this, but if you want to see a little lake, you just want to go for the day, one ticket is 20 English pounds, right? So if you do all the little so-called parks within this territory, it's way overpriced. The highest one is £30 just to go there. And this is where it gets even crazier. So because they want to fuck tourists over so much in San Pedro, there's this thing that they do where you can hire a bike, and that's obviously what most people with any logic, any brains would like to do, because you can cycle around in the sun. It's the Atacama, it's obviously a novel landscape. And you can hire the bikes from 10 a.m, which is mad. That's when they open, and it's all part of the scam, by the way. because then you've got to cycle to the national park, and you've got to get to most of them, not all of them, but most of them by 11. Some are 12. You have to get there by 11 or 12, and then you can stay in the park until it closes, which is 4 or 5 or 6 for some of them. If you don't get there, you're not allowed in on a bicycle, but you can go on a motorbike or any kind of motorised vehicle, and tours, of course. And this is the reason, because they sell tickets to the tour, so they sell tickets to everyone, entrance fee, but then the tours give them a cut. So essentially, they make double the income from the tours, and they obviously can't not allow cars and motorbikes if they're allowing the tour vehicles, because it would be such an open contradiction, it would be too obvious. But they don't allow bicycles, and this is where it's really mad. You can't even walk into the national park on foot after that time. You're not allowed to drop your bike off and walk with your feet, because again, it's a scam. They want to make as much cash as possible. So everywhere in San Pedro is like that. If you buy like the cheapest beer from a supermarket, we're talking like a crap can of like whatever standards would be in Europe or whatever, like a shit brand, it's like €2.50 for a 300ml can, right? In a bar, it's more expensive in the UK. So essentially, long story short, 3 days in San Pedro. Oh, laundry as well, mad, 3,000 a kilo, which is like $4 for 1 kilo of laundry in the whole of San Pedro. That's the least expensive you're going to get. And then if you stay in a backpacker place, they don't allow you to wash your own clothes there, because again, it's all part of the scam. I haven't seen a tourist scam place like that in quite a few years, actually. It's really like, because it's so out there in the desert, they really get people. Like, you can't not, use their services. So that's what I thought about Chile anyway, and I've spoken to so many South Americans over the years. Everyone has the same negative connotations when they think of Chile, like they're not Latin. So anyway, moved on to Peru. I'm in Peru now, and I kind of utilised the kind of like, there was a long distance bus from Calama, which is an hour from San Pedro, overnight to Arica, which is on the border in the north of Peru, and then from there it's just the easiest route to knock off Bolivia with, because obviously there's a lot of borders along that Chilean frontier. It's just that it's all kind of desert land on the other side, and it's freezing cold at the moment, like freezing cold. But that's another thing. Atacama Desert at night, wow, absolutely. Whew. And consequently, it's more efficient to take the long route, actually. And so stopped off in Arequipa, which was supposed to be a very quaint little town. I kind of thought it would be like San Cristobal de las Casas in Mexico, I don't know if it's in the Oaxaca province, but it's nearby, which is a gorgeous town. That's what I expected it to be like. Nothing like that. Peru is so... it's been capitalised on way too much, in my opinion. It's like a lost... I mean, I've only seen Arequipa, but obviously Cusco is going to be worse, where Machu Picchu is. Hence the entrance fees and stuff like that. But yeah, it didn't have a good vibe. It was just all kind of... I'll give you an example. So if you go to Arequipa, and if you actually look up at most of the restaurants, hotels, businesses that are of kind of like a middle class standing for the tourists, what you'll see is, I guess it's government policy, they all have to be in black lettering. So all the signs have to be in black lettering. Everything has been done in a way that kind of mimics your atypical hipster, overpriced bar in Europe. And honestly, like finding a coffee in a real coffee in a country that produces coffee, in a continent that makes the world's coffee, that wasn't like more than what you get in London, is really difficult, actually. Like, really, it's so OP, it's unbelievable. So yeah, Arequipa was not great. I mean, it's nice for a few days maybe to walk around, have a little chill, use it as a base camp, because one thing with Peru is accommodation is really cheap, and food in the local places is crazy cheap. You're talking like, in the centre you can get 8 for a start and a main. 8 is, so it's 4.5 to the pound, so it's less than £2. And it's decent, accommodation as well. But like, if you just want to go out and have a beer, and like, stuff is kind of on par with Europe, to be honest. And the people, man, okay, I don't want to be too rude, but for me, I don't do masks. I don't like any of that kind of submissive status, do whatever the cabal want you to do. A few things you notice when you travel around the world. Good indication of how people treat each other is how motorists are with pedestrians anywhere in the world. It's a really good indicator. the motorists do not give a fuck about anyone in Peru, but like really rudely. So it's not as if we're talking about the bustle of India. We're talking about just on the streets when someone can stop for you and it doesn't impede on their time in any way. They just won't. They're over the pedestrian crossings, all that kind of shit. All the police are wearing masks. So many children are wearing masks as well, which is mad. The level of like submissiveness to the state is really concerning. It's depressing actually. And Chile was worse, to be honest. I would say Chile is, because it's obviously got a stronger economy, people are better educated. It's a scarier kind of submissiveness. It's more of a totalitarian kind of like fascist demeanour, which makes sense given their history and given their sponsoring of Pinochet. It is not a Latin country. It's very much a kind of Western Zikao nation. If any Chileans are watching, take it on the shoulder. It's a pinch of salt, but it's kind of true. Like, ask anyone else in South America. So yeah, Chile, Peru, it's all right. It's average. It's nothing in my books. It's not particularly special. The people bother me a little bit. They're nice enough, but it's not nice in a kind of openly Brazilian way. Do you know what I mean? Or a Colombian way. It's kind of it's just a kind of etiquette. Everything's very clean. Best chips in the world as well, by the way. Wow. I thought English chips were the best, but the chips here in Peru with the chicken, they're really, really good. So yeah, that's basically the vibe. On the way to Bolivia now, but I heard Bolivia's even got mask mandates on the cable cars in La Paz. So some of the public transport have mask mandates. Whether that's true or not, I'll find out. But I know there's going to be more maskiness going on there. It's kind of like a lady in the lounge when I was waiting for my transfer between Santiago and Calama. She said about her own people, about Chileans, we're soulless, and she's absolutely right. But I would apply that to a lot of people that I've seen in Peru so far, which is very, very sad. So it's not always good to have a negative, but it's good to be honest and give people an idea of the kind of buzz of what's happening in the world. And South America, I guess we're going to find out if this kind of this nonchalance to the status quo has kind of spread north. Hopefully hasn't completely intertwined itself around Colombian culture, but for here people are just they have a slave mindset. It's mad. Like, I can't believe people are still wearing masks and little kids wearing masks, and the parents sometimes don't even wear masks. It's that whole stupid thing. Obviously the keyword mask means on YouTube, probably going to get a flag for this because that's the world we live in. Anyway, there we go. Tuning out.